Did you know that every day, consciously or unconsciously, you make decisions that determine whether or not you'll be rich in the future? Money is one of life's necessities, but it's also one of the trickiest things to keep track of. When people have poor money management habits, they often end up in financial difficulty. If you want to get out of the cycle of debt, poverty, or financial instability, it is essential to recognize poor behavior and make changes to how you behave in order to break the loop. In today's video, we'll discuss 14 bad money habits that keep you poor for the rest of your life. So make sure to watch the video till the end, and if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Getting back to the video, let's start with number 1. Taking financial advice from incompetent people. Working for someone else will not make you wealthy, so stop listening to unsuccessful people for advice. Seek advice only from those who are where you want to be. Without your choice, you're surrounded by people who become your friends. You are the average of the 5 individuals with whom you spend the majority of your time. If you hang out with the poor, guess who will be the 6th? Therefore, you must accept responsibility for your circumstances, even if the odds are stacked against you. Poor individuals are fond of blaming others for their failures, so the only way to avoid the system is to develop abilities that are economically valuable. You won't get very far if all you know how to do is flip burgers. Unnecessary spending. Warren Buffett once said, "If you acquire things you do not need, soon you will be forced to sell things you need." Consider how often you give in to marketing and buy something you really didn't need. Somebody talked you into exchanging your hard-earned cash for an intangible emotion. Working with the poor can be quite lucrative. That's why so many aspiring social media models are flat broke. Because Gucci wants to increase sales to lower-income consumers, the company pays celebrities to promote the brand by wearing Gucci clothing. You are constantly targeted by advertisements since people with low incomes tend to be financially illiterate. The paradox of being poor as a child is that, in an effort to make up for the void it created, you end up spending more money than you have. Living without budgeting and planning. Every poor person on the planet complains about a lack of financial resources, but none of them can explain where their money goes. You need to snap out of it and acknowledge that the amounts of money that you are frivolously spending on things like subscriptions and other items that you do not require. That money might be put towards paying down your debt or filling in some of your other financial gaps. Poor people are able to make do with little to no money, so when they do get paid, they're fast to spend it to get back to their default, out of fear that it will be taken away from them in some way by life. This is because they have no idea where they'll spend their money or how much they'll save. Buying things you can't afford. Spending money you don't have is the riskiest thing you can do. Modern slavery is based on the system of debt. When you borrow money to buy something, the corporation controls your time until the money is repaid with interest. So if you want to get ahead, you need to stop desiring material possessions right now. Instead, wait until you can afford to buy it before making the purchase. Don't just go out and buy something without first asking yourself, can you afford it? Really? Because money borrowing is a terrible practice that's keeping most people financially stagnant. Also, be careful about giving other people access to your cash because it won't be generating interest for you while it's in their hands. Only banks and loan sharks are making money off of lending money, while everyone else is getting drained dry. Playing status games. Most people compromise their future in order to impress others they dislike. The more you think about it, the more ridiculous that sounds. Why spend so much money on a wedding when you might put it into a business or tour the world with your loved one? We are proud people who do not want to be viewed as inferior. Yet this is exactly how you end up poor in the long run because the things that move you out of poverty are the exact opposite, which is to stop playing status games. Poor people are unaware of a hidden rule. The appearance game cannot be won. That's because you must continue to spend money in order to remain in the same position. Sticking to one source of income. We all know that working a job will never make you rich, but for the poor, it's the only method they know to make ends meet. Furthermore, there will always be limits to how many jobs one can have at once and, consequently, how much money one can earn. Of course, if you get hit by a car and are out of commission for 4 months, you won't be making any money at that time, will you? The chances of going broke to go down in a straight line as the number of ways you make money goes up. About 70% of self-made millionaires had more than one source of income. Most low-income people can only afford to eat and pay their bills when they're working. You will never get wealthy until you find a way to make money while you rest, and once you've experienced the independence that comes with being your own boss and developing various sources of revenue, you'll never want to go back to a traditional job. Wasting money and time. Given that we all have the same number of hours in a day, the difference in our long-term outcomes is determined by how many of those hours we devote to improving ourselves. Your failure to take action in your 20s is the primary reason for your financial hardship in your 30s. To begin amassing wealth, it's necessary to reclaim the time that would otherwise have been spent doing nothing. Immediately after, all fun should be halted. It will be an inconvenience at first, but things will improve rapidly. You can't afford amusement if you're broke. Time is the most precious resource, and you can't afford to waste it. Choosing short-term over long-term. If the present isn't great, there's no reason to give up on the future. Those on the lower rungs of society are the ones who suffer the most from the consequences of live for today, die tomorrow culture. It sells them the dream, but ultimately keeps them poor. Simply put, the poor buy useless items. Things only get worse when the poor have to pay interest on loans used to purchase goods that lose value over time. Many high-end purchases lose more than half their value within the first 5 years. Every year, you not only incur annual losses, but also interest payments on the borrowed funds. You're losing money in both directions, therefore it's imperative to prioritize the long term over the short term. Not willing to change. Most of the times it's due to arrogance that people think they have a firm grasp on financial matters just because they've observed similar behaviors in others. You can't let your fear of change hold you back. Today we live in a world where advanced technology is practically ubiquitous. In other words, more people now have access to better opportunities. Everyone has access to the latest and greatest gadgets. However, they only utilize them to stalk reels on social media. The truth is, learning increases one's earning potential. The greater your proficiency with cutting-edge gadgets, the more clout you'll have. So don't be afraid of change. Instead, welcome it with open arms. Living without saving for an emergency. People without money often err in a different way from the wealthy and ignore the best advice on their financial situation. The poor get funds, use those funds, then save or invest the remainder, and in the end, nothing is left to save. The wealthy, on the other hand, invest or save a larger chunk of their paychecks and then spend the rest on their monthly expenses. That's because the goal of the investment itself is to generate more money, so the strategy is effective. Instead, the typical person goes on a shopping spree. One reason for this is the proliferation of online social communities. Poor people don't realize how fabricated everything on social media is. We're a generation of downers that share memes of smiling people just to rack up likes online. Paying excessive taxes. The receipt of a tax refund brings joy to the poor. This is money you loaned to the government for no interest. They used your money without payment. However, it is not all of it. The fact is that poor people pay taxes in a totally different manner than wealthy individuals. The state deducts your taxes directly from your paycheck if you have a job, leaving you with the remainder to spend. If you're a business, you get to spend however much money you want before the state taxes the remainder. Unhealthy lifestyle. According to a financial advisor, practically every unhealthy habit you have in your life is causing you to be poor. Cigarettes and alcohol are also making you poor. These not only cause financial addiction by pulling money directly out of your pocket, but they also have a domino effect on everything else in your life. You're less likely to earn a job advancement if you're overweight, and you're more likely to have complicated heart problems, which result in a massive healthcare expenditure because health is your best profit. So right now, take a glance around you and notice all the garbage that surrounds you. You paid for the majority of it, and it's having an impact on your life. Poor thinking behavior. You stay poor because you think of yourself as someone who will never be affluent, someone who isn't smart, good, or educated enough. In fact, you can get where you want to go if you keep going, keep learning, and make improvements along the way. You can't pick where you were born, your parents, or your childhood, but you can choose what you do. You decide your life, how hard you'll work, and your future. If you're born poor, it's not your fault. If you die poor, it is. Upgrading your gadgets constantly. Though it's not a bad idea to spend money on necessities like new electronics, buying anything only because it's the next edition of a mobile device is a surefire way to waste money. The time to start controlling your own destiny is now. If you want to help yourself out, the time to start working towards financial success is now. If frugality is incorrect, then I prefer to be wrong, as William Shatner once put it. Well, this brings us to the end of today's video. You must know that I'm on a mission to get your financial life to the next level. That being said, click on the video that popped up on your screen because you don't want to miss the opportunity to get more valuable knowledge completely for free.